Eagle 6 in the track.
Roger.
Over 1 bombs away. One's going to climb high above 20. You're south.
Eagle 6 radar contact. Eagle 6 is visual.
And it goes left.
Welcome back to the DCS SITREP, where we discuss and analyze news and information about DCS World, the world's premier combat flight simulator for the home PC, built for you by Eagle Dynamics. I'm your host, Prickly Hedgehog, and this week's newsletter from Eagle Dynamics referenced Edge 2.9 again, which I suspect could be close to release. The actual release date hasn't been revealed, so hopefully it is soon, because they are certainly giving us some interesting hints that 2.9 could be one of the bigger updates, I believe, for the DCS core engine, possibly to date, and will bring visual and audio performance updates beyond our current expectations. How do I know this? Well, firstly, let's look at the plug they provided for the new voice chat system they have been working on. Firstly, they thanked the closed beta testers, had provided them with some interesting information, or useful information at least, to help fine-tune the product. Remember, this is something ED have been working on for a while, and it is their own in-house radio system. While many of you probably are familiar or use SRS, which is a great little app, and it's a free one, that does require some plugging in to synchronize with a given server. The team from ED advised, though, that they're using real-world audio physics to model your voice in a way that mimics or replicates radio effects. So they've gone to some lengths here to make this sound a little bit more realistic. How this will compare to SRS, I'm not sure yet, but they tell us that they have included distortions, signal loss, and interference, which I think is really interesting. The radio features will also be error specific, and with that, then the advancement in radio communications development will mean that voices will be clearer in the modern aircraft compared with that of the warbirds, which obviously uses older technology. So if you're wondering what the real-world audio physics reference means, well, I tried to do a little bit of digging on this. And of course, the use of sound in video games now has become increasingly sophisticated in parallel, really, to the complexity of 3D environments able to be generated in modern games. So sound designers are considering everything from what appears to be, let's say, a simple glass break. They also then consider the mass and shape of objects as they collide with other things in the game. If something breaks and falls apart in random sizes, all of those objects are going to create different sounds as they crumble down to the ground because of their size, their shape, and their mass. So suddenly a single event by the player could trigger a cascade of sounds to fill the world. So like artists consider the way light interacts with the game's physical construct, so therefore do sound engineers have to consider the way the sound paints a picture as it interacts with the world. So this creates not a landscape or a visual landscape, so it's a soundscape, so to speak. So in this instance, that concept appears to be expressed within the ears of the pilot while plugged into different types of headphones, and I'm intrigued to see this in action. ED advised that the voice chat system will also be rolled out to the various modules, starting with the Airboss for the DCS supercarrier. Again, I'm really interested to see this in action. Movement on further development for the supercarrier is a frequently requested topic on this channel, and you'll recall also that Wags was looking for an Airboss voice actor with sufficient gravitas when he appeared on the Mover and Gonki show a little while back, discussing real world and DCS things. Pretty cool. So ED also added that they're improving the interface for the voice chat system, which is promising, and they say this will allow you to find your friends more easily in multiplayer, and an interface that will also allow you to communicate with units in multiplayer servers without having to run the simulator. So this is also something pretty interesting. I was advised by a subscriber that currently this in-house system that ED are going to release does not interface with LOT ATC, unfortunately. So for those running ATC and AWACS or GCI type roles in a multiplayer environment, this is not going to work for that just yet, as far as I know. And this comes apparently from Big Newy. So purely single players, this probably won't mean a whole lot to you, but if you're interested in that LOT ATC program and how a GCI might function, check out Tactical Pascal. He has some old videos that he did over the last year or so covering both LOT ATC and the roles and responsibility of a GCI in the real world, and how you can kind of fulfill that role in DCS world. Some people will use the F10 menu for that. It's not as easy to do, and LOT-ATC provides you with a lot more convenient data and a better interface for doing that if you know how to use it. Like all of these third-party programs, it's not something you just plug in and play. You do have to spend some time getting used to those programs. And I haven't used LOT-ATC myself, but I know we have tried to use it for the Air Warfare group. And I know that one of our Air Warfare group members has used it for the Enigma server and stuff like that. So very, very useful tool. And again, a whole separate topic we won't get into today.
Are you still by the end of the runway? I think you'll have a tailwind if you take off there, but you should be fine. Okay, I'm over a walk now.
As part of this 2.9 update, though, Edie reminded us about the flurry of videos that WAGS has produced in recent weeks on the various DataLink options for Edie modules. This includes the Viper, the Hornet, the Warthog, and of course the Apache. Now, only the Viper and the Hornet have some interconnectability at this juncture, but remember that the system will allow DataLink members to exchange information pertaining to air-to-air and air-to-surface targeting. This will build a greater picture of the battle space, which will greatly enhance player SA as it does in the real world for pilots operating in hostile environments. It's what gives them the edge and allows them to either engage or to retreat on their own terms. So this is how cooperatively complex air defense systems can actually be systematically dismantled in a tactical way with the judicious use of appropriate assets. Now, we saw in the Apache video from WAGS how much useful data can be sent between the aircraft, and this ranges from threats to targets to waypoints, hazards, routes, and even reports between members, and even fuel states and missile states for the individual aircraft as well. So quite a useful way of exchanging data in a complex, fluid environment to minimize radio traffic, or even perhaps where radio traffic is not even feasible. So cool stuff. Now, as others have noted, and as I've said previously, this is very, very complex programming work by the game designers to make it functional. Similar to what we saw with the radar discussion last week, there are elements, I think, that are beyond the visual eye candy stuff that we get with the game. And I think this comprehensive programming that the ED team has done sometimes gets overlooked as a measure of the game's progress, the game's direction, and development as a combat aircraft simulator. Again, the benefits of this will definitely be particularly helpful for multiplayer people. There will be benefit to solo players, but not quite to the same degree, I don't think. It's when you really get into multiplayer that this kind of stuff really shines and really gives you a really interesting, immersive experience. And ultimately, you get to use the tool as, to a greater or lesser degree as it was intended, which is really, really cool. So eye candy, you say, what's with the DLSS support that we heard about recently? What are we likely to see under the 2.9 update? Well, we have theorized that if the support for DLSS goes ahead as it looks like it will, many of you running VR systems should see general improvements to performance. Most of us should see additional game improvements, particularly those of us running with the NVIDIA RTX cards, which is what DLS really shines with. Now, we have seen some interesting images from ED recently, some snippets of visual enhancements not previously seen in prior iterations of Edge. One of these I saw many, many moons ago. I actually recall seeing a sea state feature from the point of view of a Hornet flying over a carrier group in what looked like some pretty nasty weather during what looked like maybe a case 1/case 2 type conditions. I'm not sure if the game was able to support more realistic pitching deck conditions to leave you a sweaty mess in your sim pit or your office chair, but I can't say I've seen any replication of that little clip that Edie posted on Twitter a while back. which was, as I said, some time ago. And what we did see, though, was a clip during the 15-year celebration, which demonstrated some visual improvements. The first one I want to discuss, which actually I put in the video last week, but I didn't get a chance to fit it into the format as well as I would have liked to generate a discussion point. It was really going to be a separate video, but time just escaped me. And this was a short clip from the carrier inside the Hornet. Nick Gray mentioned changes coming to DCS as he spoke, and it was impossible to miss this graphical enhancement, which I definitely have not been able to recreate in the current game state, even with all the bells and whistles turned on. So this must be new stuff. This must be coming as part of this DLSS update and other improvements to this core engine. So the original attempt to generate droplets and water movements was actually pretty good over the canopies. They do move in the right direction of the wind, for example, and across the surface of the glass. But the droplets, are a little bit large. They look a little bit clunky. They're not quite perfect, and the rain and stuff like that. It's not bad, but again, it's not quite realistic. Even the sound, actually, now that we were talking about sound before, I know that movers said that the sound on the F-16's cockpit, etc., was way too loud. He said you wouldn't really hear it in the helmet, and it wasn't as realistic as what his own personal experiences are. So we had some real world pilot feedback there. Nonetheless, if they sort that out, this new effort looks really realistic, and I was really intrigued by what I saw there as a visual enhancement to the game under what is clearly going to be 2.9. Now, along those lines, we also saw some better physical rotor wash, which I mentioned this week in the clips that WAGS has produced recently. There was a very brief portion from WAGS when he demonstrated the laser warning system for the Apache, which is coming. Now, the grass behaves in a much more realistic fashion in conjunction with the dust. Some people pointed out to me that, yeah, the dust was already there, but I feel that the dust moves in a little bit more consistent way with that rotor wash, unless I'm mistaken. That was hard to say, rotor wash. The proof, of course, will be in the pudding, as they say, but I also noted what appears to be some better physical detailing here, also on the exterior of the Apache. Looking at the wheels, the art decals, and even the pilot details, just seemed a little bit more involved, a little bit more texture, and a little bit more realism there in the modeling. So results will obviously vary between systems that the various community members have. And as many of you know who do videos and things, native resolution always looks a little bit better than the rendered version when it's compressed into the YouTube system. So I expect to see better in-game experiences than what we've seen thus far. Stay tuned for more as it comes to hand. Now, I don't want to overhype any of these snippets. These are my best guess deductions based on the pieces of information that ED is revealing rather teasingly in these various videos, which WAGS has a habit of doing, which I think is cool and keeps the community guessing, keeps them on their toes. WAGS sometimes actually teases and pokes the community a little bit when they miss things. And he'll point out, hey, I'm surprised you guys didn't see this earlier on a particular feature or what have you, which is a fun way of interacting with the community. No doubt the real features will be showcased in a video that typically accompanies a major update of this nature, similar to what we saw with Clouds a while back. So nonetheless, the features ED has already discussed, the DataLink, the radar, the radio chat features. These are big updates which are coming into the game, and some obviously earlier than others, but I'm really excited what they are showcasing thus far and what they intend to do with the game. Now, on top of all of this in-house development, we still have a stack of aircraft too from third-party developers in the wings waiting for arrival, the first of which should be, in my opinion, and my best guess, the Phantom 2 from Heat Blur. We do have several maps, one of which I know is also just gone into alpha stage, which that's all about. That's all I can say about that, unfortunately, but stay tuned for more information. Now, on the subject of the Phantom 2, Heat Blur did plug a couple of pictures in their Discord, including this pilot shot, which at first glance looks photorealistic. I was absolutely shocked, especially I had to zoom in I thought it was a real Phantom picture. So if you're injecting hype for the Phantom, it doesn't get much more it doesn't get much better than this, I must say. So outside of a pre-purchase date, which we'll see a flurry of sales, I'm sure, for this aircraft, I'm really hoping that's the case here this year as promised. Remember, it's practically a year behind schedule for a variety of reasons. Remember that the F-15E was about 6 months late for reasons largely beyond RASBAM's control, and there was a lot of anger from the community about that. It got a little out of control. Actually really impacted my enjoyment of getting my hands on the aircraft, to be honest, because of some of the vitriol from the community. So hopefully that's not the case for the Phantom here. Outside of development delays, there are some circumstances, as I said, which can interrupt these release dates. One of which is not always discussed, is the timing between the modules so that the developers can maximize their sales and ED gets a portion of that. You don't want to release two highly popular modules right on top of each other, so that could be one of the other reasons that we have this extended delay. A lot of people are speculating Christmas, which is what my guess is. I'm hoping we'll see an early access or pre-purchase sale for this of some kind coming up here, and I will do a giveaway on that as well because it's such a cool module, and I know so many community members are looking forward to it. So I'm actually hoping that 2.9 will benefit us in terms of a dynamic campaign development as well. Switching gears here a little bit, I think the current engine resource hog that it is under the older graphics engine is prohibitive of Eagle Dynamics running a smooth campaign. We have no tangible timeline for the dynamic campaign, but I think that will be a big draw card for a lot of solo players looking for an alternative to, say, Falcon 4 BMS as a minor rival. Now that Microprose has reacquired the rights to the Falcon franchise, which a lot of fans are referencing as Falcon 5. There is a need, I think, for some sort of non-linear playability, which generates replayability in a less scriptured timelines and structures of these current campaigns that we have. Don't get me wrong, though. I think the campaign makers like Reflected and Baltic Dragon do phenomenal work. And one of the big benefits of those two gents in particular is that they've dragged in and consulted real pilots to help them with their mission planning and their campaigns, which has sparked interest from real pilots in the game, and also lent authenticity to the game as it stands, as a product, and as a fairly realistic simulation of air warfare and air combat, which I think is really cool. So again, shout out to Reflected and Baltic. You guys do amazing work, and long may it continue. I'm certainly not advocating the absence of these campaigns in favor of a dynamic campaign. So we'll see how that goes. The game would definitely be poorer without their input, like I said, and they create amazing experiences within this current platform. And indeed, I think a lot of the work that they do has contributed to broader improvements to the game, especially when you consider the consultancy that we've had from real pilots who've brought their expertise in and discuss the pros and cons of DCS World as it stands as a product, which is cool. So lastly, this week's newsletter was rounded out by a little plug for a new campaign. This is actually another Black Shark 3 campaign. It's called MAD, or Mutually Assured Destruction, a Black Shark campaign by Stone Sky. This is still one of my favorite helicopters to fly in the game. Such an interesting engineering marvel. And so any new campaigns with the Black Shark are always welcome for me in my stable. This campaign will be set in the Persian Gulf, and good news, it features both single and multiplayer gameplay, which is cool. So there will be a range of missions, about 12 in total, on various portions of the map, and there will be about 1,400 triggers and story radio dialogues, some custom liveries, and detailed documentation for the kneeboards, which is really cool. So again, another neat little addition to the game of another helicopter campaign, and I can't wait to see more helicopters in the game. We're still waiting for things like the Kiowa, the BO-105, and the Chinook, remember, as well. So we've got things to look forward to. Hopefully these things do manifest themselves as an actual module in the game in the near future and not too far away. But yeah, sadly we're still waiting for a couple of these things. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up this week's DCS SITREP. From me, your host, Prickly Hedgehog. Thanks for the continued support. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more information and giveaways such as the Phantom F42, which I plan to give away once that is released in early access here. So you do need to be a subscriber for that. Click that button, click the like button, make a comment in the comment section below. I enjoy the feedback and I enjoy the discussions that we have. We'll see you next time on the DCS SITREP. See ya.
Okay, gents, this will be last gun run for everyone, I think.
2 guns, please.
So I think we're starting with number 3, it'll be last one. So 3, 4, 1, 2, and then
Altitude.
3, roger, approaching final guns run. 4.